Alrighty, friends, let us begin. What I'd like to invite us to do is fully drop into the body and arrive. And so I'd like you to take a moment and turn an inward gaze. And if closing your eyes is helpful to do that, I welcome you to. I'm going to. If lying down is what your body would appreciate, please honor the body. If getting up and moving is where your body and your mind are in this moment, please allow yourself the freedom to practice in that way. For the month of May, we have been exploring the topic of boundaries, cultivating healthy spaces where we can have understandings, sacred understandings with people in our lives, people whom we love, who are easy to love, people who challenge us, people who are strangers to us, people we know and sincerely do not like. There are all kinds of people in the world that we are going to connect with and interface with, and therefore we need to have these borders of pause that create conditions for healthy exchange, clear understanding, and places of mutuality, mutual understanding, mutual respect, mutual in seeing one another. Even if we don't understand or accept one another, we see each other clearly. This way we can avoid descending into the mind states of mobbery, brutality, division, aversion, and so on. And so for the month, I have been talking about boundaries, creating these healthy, beautiful spaces by using the framework of the four foundations of mindfulness: the body, our emotions, thoughts, and our perceptions of the world, our beliefs, our convictions, the formations that we have in our thoughts and in our minds based on our history, our ancestry, the stories we tell, the judgments we have, the biases and prejudices we continue to perpetuate. These are places in our boundaried space within us that we can always turn to as a way of cultivating self-awareness. Healthy boundaries cannot exist without insight, without self-awareness, without self-acceptance, without self-regard. Healthy boundaries, however, are not self-centered. When we are self-centered, we are likely highly unboundaried. When we are self-aware, we have created an environment where we can see ourselves in connection and in relationship to other people and in relationship to all of our own habits, actions, patterns of thought and behavior. Last night, John introduced a really wonderful meditation and reflection on the idea that our thoughts can have the potential to lead to negative habit energy, negative habit responses and reactions. Those negative actions can cycle in really vicious ways, creating conditions of regret, guilt, shame, deep suffering. And those vicious cycles can inform how we live our lives. And so by placing that particular human experience, that awareness in a beautiful space, we're also invited to examine our thoughts and our habits and our cycles, our patterns that are really beautiful and positive and inspiring and illuminating. Because a whole human being is the combination of the two. In the world of recovery and support, however, we have a tendency to focus only on the negative, to focus on the negative habit energy, the patterns of behavior that are disordered, things that we call addictions. And I get it. It causes a lot of dysfunction and harm. But in order to heal, we have to remember to excavate those qualities within our beautifully boundaried spaces that are worth cherishing, that are precious. So for tonight's practice, I'd like to invite us all collectively to raise our awareness. And I'd like to follow the intention, which is to smile at our awkwardness and to find something within each of us that's awkwardly endearing. Some little quirky aspect of you that makes you unique. My motivation for bringing this forward is because recently I've been reflecting on the history in the West of treating our behaviors and our quirkiness and our oddities and anything that we judge to be outside of the realm of good as being something sinful, bad, evil. The Western mind has a propensity for being very black and white in its thinking, very either or, this or that, good or bad, right or wrong. Eastern philosophy, Buddhist perspective, is both. We are not the sum of just our positive qualities or just our negative qualities. We are the sum of both. And yet we've got this long history, ancestral history, of treating one side of us, those parts of us that are full of flaw, wobbly, inconsistent, unreliable, slow, whatever word you want to call it. There are parts of us that aren't perfect. I hate to even use that word. And so for centuries and centuries, that was considered sin. In the contemporary world, we've moved away from that because we are moving away from dogmatic religion in the West. But what we've done is we've moved away from the idea of theological sin, and we've moved into pathological psychology. Everything that's odd and quirky about us, we're looking to label. What's the pathology of the day? What's the neuropsych label today? It could just be a little bit of weirdness. So what's your weirdness? What's off? Can you allow it to exist in this beautiful space of you? Can you be friendly toward those parts of you that are flawed, scarred, healed, but misshapen? Have you considered adding beauty and wonder, softness and acceptance to these parts? Can you see them in others with whom you are bordered? Friends, I wanted to invite us to take a moment and practice creating boundaries around ourselves as a beautiful space to come home to. And the reason for this is I was thinking about someone whom we were privileged to hear yesterday share in this space about a recent recurrence. And this individual felt quite low about it. And many people do, because recurrences are tricky and they're painful and they're frustrating, and we grieve about them. We grieve discovering we're in a place where we didn't think we'd be again, where it's embarrassing, it's humiliating. There are many people in community who are unsupported. And I also want to remind everybody that we have a whole treatment system of care that isn't particularly effective. And that is sad and scary and frustrating, because so many people who go into treatment and come out, and within the first year, usually within the first 6 months or less, depending on the substance, will have a recurrence. And our system of care has a habit energy of blaming the client or the patient. And so that feeling of failure and flaw is constantly and incessantly reinforced. So people in recovery are not only suffering from habit energy, they're suffering because they're beaten down. And many of you know this experience. And I want to create environments where you can come home to yourself by creating a beautiful space that reminds you, yes, I have flaws. Yes, I've had a recurrence. And now I'm in this safe space that I've created for myself, so I can look at why that happened and I can learn from it and make a different choice next time. I can create more options to choose from when the conditions of my life are really challenging and tempting me to return to things that are familiar, albeit maladaptive. So creating boundaries, sanctuaries for ourselves is a practice. And when you do that, check in with your body and treat your body with kindness. Eat well and rest. Check in with your mood and make sure you choose things and engage in things that offer you some joy and grace, friendliness and care. Check in with your mind. Observe if you're obsessing on negative shadowed thoughts. And watch your stories and make sure you remind yourself of your magnificence and your beauty and your divine connection. Come home to yourself. May you find shelter there, and may it be safe and beautiful. And in your own time, may you share. I'd like to end our practice today with a little ritualized hand gesture. If you'd like to join me, you can, but I just want you to, if you ever see me do this, you'll know that this is what I say whenever I am engaged in this particular practice. So this is a practice where you put your hands in prayer pose, hands together, thumbs pointing out, fingers are together, not spread apart. And I bring my thumbs up to the very top of my head. And so my fingertips are pointed up. And I remind myself, may my thoughts be kind and gentle. And then very gently I bring my fingers, my thumbs to my lips. And I tell myself, may my words, my speech be kind and gentle. And then I trace my thumbs down to the middle of my throat. And I rest my pointer fingers on my chin, and I pause here for a moment. May I listen with an open mind and a soft, soft ear. And I bring my hands down to my heart. May my heart be open and spacious. May I remember I am blessed and well loved. Let's go ahead and end our practice with a dedication of merit. Jacob shared this evening the awareness of, sort of ignoring, dismissing, trying to get rid of those parts of ourselves. Lo has shared over the years hunting down those places within us that we find unnoble, hunting them down, looking for them to eradicate them. It's a very human thing to do. It's such a reflection of our black and white thinking. Got to get rid of all the bad, got to bring in only the good. And it's folly. It's a cycle of suffering. John O'Donohue talks about the habit energy of trying to get rid of the shadowed parts of ourselves as becoming places in our inner landscapes that will haunt us for the rest of our lives if we're not careful. This is a practice of working with discomfort, suffering, bewilderment, upheaval. This is a practice of creating an environment of safety and softening for those haunted corners to gain access to a little light. This is a practice of remembering that the wholeness of each of us is beyond measure, beyond words, beyond knowing. This is a practice of having the courage to bring forward your Buddha nature as only you can do. And may you know that every step you take to bring forward that majestic Buddha nature is a step toward healing all of the world. We need it, and we need you. Thank you so much for your beautiful practice. Thank you so much for leaving your impression in this sacred place of refuge. I hope to practice with you again soon. We'll see you next time. Namaste.